If I'm Orlando, I'm trying to move 5 and 8. I'm trying to move up to get Mobley. Would be my target, um, or Green, and then Suggs right behind it. But yeah, that would be my move to try and package and move up into the top four.
All right, so it seems like there's a pretty clear top four at this point. Earlier in the year, it seemed like Kuminga was in there as a top five, but now there seems to be a little bit more separation between him and these top four guys. So let's move to number five, the Orlando Magic, the first of two lottery picks for them. You have Kuminga going there in your most recent mock. So how do you see him fitting with the Magic?
Yeah, I mean, he gives them something they don't have, which is like a front court scorer. And I love Isaac, and I'm high on Chuma Okeke, but Kuminga is like a go-to guy in an offense, and they don't really have that up front, unless I'm forgetting somebody. But I mean, he was before the G League. He was a guy who people thought could be a potential number one overall candidate. He played a couple games. People still thought that. In fact, I think they thought it more after a couple games. And then he fell off. His shot stopped falling. And you see, he takes some tough shots, and the ball sticks to his hands a little bit too much. And he doesn't really offer a lot of ancillary skills. Like he's like a scorer. And if he's not scoring, what's he doing? I think that's the big knock on him. However, he's 6'8", 220, athletic, powerful, fast. And he can get his own shot from everywhere on the floor. And despite the poor shooting numbers, he's a shot maker. And they say he's 18 years old. I know some people question that. But assuming that's the case, there's enough shot making skill in his bag that I think he could eventually improve as a shooter. He blew people away during his pro day, although everyone seems to do that. And so, I mean, to me, for Orlando, like he's a scorer that you can put at 3 or 4, who you can feature in the half court. And I just don't think you can really say that about Isaac and Okeke. And so I think he makes sense for them on paper. And then there's Scotty Barnes, who is like really trending right now in the draft conversation. To me, he's not the greatest fit because that group needs some offense. And I love Isaac there as their defensive specialist. And I just don't know if they get enough offense if you throw Barnes into that group. I'm also a believer in best player available, and you figure it out from there. But I think at this point, I'd still give the edge to Kuminga. I don't think Barnes is like clear cut much better.
Gotcha. Do you think, given where Orlando is in their team building process, they have 5 and 8, so they could, in theory, try to combine those picks and move up. Do you think they should try it? Like, would a Suggs, Mobley, Green be worth trading both of those picks, or should they just take swings on 2 guys in this range instead?
I hate this range in like every draft. Like the 6 to 10, the 6 to 10 range is like, I'm not a fan of that range, particularly in this draft. And not that I don't like those guys, but the guys who are projected to go there, I just don't have this like near the same level of confidence as I do in the top 4 guys. And so absolutely, if I'm Orlando, I don't need 2 more young guys. And I do like the idea of like, they're like 2 gambles that could potentially pay off. It's 2 swings instead of 1. Mm-hmm. But I think in this draft, there are 4 sure things. Like I can't see any way that those top 4 guys aren't going to be good pros. And so, and not just good pros, but like valuable cornerstone pros. And in the 6 to 10 range, I don't have a ton of confidence in Davion Mitchell. Keon Johnson from Tennessee is in that range that they're going to be looking at, right? Kuminga, Barnes, James Bouknight, like these are good prospects, but my level of confidence drops a lot. Based on guys with top 10, you think the value would just be higher. If I'm Orlando, I'm trying to move 5 and 8. I'm trying to move up to get Mobley. Would be my target. Or Green, and then Suggs right behind it. But yeah, that would be my move to try and package and move up into the top 4.
Interesting. Yeah, because I mean, part of me was thinking positionally based on who they have. Backcourt, you already have Markelle and Cole Anthony. In the front court, you just traded for Wendell. You have Mobamba still. Like, with the top 4 being so guard and big heavy, maybe they're happy staying here because you probably do get swings at 2 forwards or 2 wings instead. But as you said, if they don't have confidence in these guys panning out, like I feel like this has been the problem for Orlando really for most of the past decade. Like every time they have a high pick, they just get it in the wrong draft class, or they haven't maximized these guys either.
Yeah,
but
Orlando needs we look at the guys that we're talking about in Orlando, and we don't really know where their careers are going. I mean, there's a good young prospects, but like, who's R.J. Hampton going to be? Who's Cole Anthony going to be? Markelle Fultz, totally unpredictable. Wendell Carter. I mean, even Okeke. Like, we don't know how good. None of them are like surefire stars. They have a lot of good, promising young prospects, and maybe one of them blows up. But there's the level of, you can't have any real confidence in any of these guys are star players. I think you can have a lot more confidence that Cade or Suggs or Green or Mobley is going to be a star player. And I think all of those guys are better prospects than anyone Orlando has on their roster right now.
Yeah, I would go Green. I would try my damnedest to trade up for Jalen Green if I'm Orlando, because they have pivoted towards defense so many times in the past, and you just see that it's just not working out. In today's NBA, you need explosive offense. I understand that they had Vooch and all that, but he's he's someone who has to be reliant upon guard play. Like, you need a guard who can self-create. And then I know Magic fans are going to come at me and say, well, Cole Anthony did that to a certain extent. And yes, he did, but he is not a Jalen Green. Jalen Green will come in right off the bat on that Orlando team if they find a way to acquire him, and probably get 20 like every single game. He's that good. I think that's the guy they need to target, if anything.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense.
Okay, so let's slide down to OKC at number 6. I know a lot of people on draft lottery night were saying they were one of the biggest losers because they didn't get the Houston pick, didn't convey, and then they also slide down a little bit. They missed that top 4 range, so they're not going to get one of these top guys without trading up. You have Scotty Barnes going there. Another defensive guy who can't shoot, so this is right up OKC's alley, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think OKC, I think they won 2 games in the last 2 months of the season. Like, they are at rock bottom, and I don't know how you even think about fit and needs, and you just got to take the best player available here, and Barnes is generating top 5 buzz, and I think the interest typically can be like contagious. Like, you see so much love for a guy, the teams start to feel like, oh, maybe we were missing something. And I think Barnes at this point is moving into this as a top 6 lock. And if it's not Barnes, it'll be Kuminga. And then, because also number 7, like, nobody really separates themselves as the next best guy. Bouknight, to me, Bouknight like at 6 just seems like a reach, and Mitchell at 6 is a reach. And you go down the list, the next group of guys, I'm just not in love with this next group. And I think Barnes is the type of guy who can have, I think the term I've been using is like outlier star potential, where it's not traditional upside. We think upside, we think guys who can get you 25, we think of big time athletes or elite playmakers. Like, his upside comes in a different form. I mean, he's like another version of Draymond Green, where he's a star, but in a different way. And OKC, regardless, has to just continue building no matter what, and continue adding pieces. And so, Barnes is just so unique. You can't really replicate his skill set. Guys like him don't come around. 6'9", 227, who can lead your team in assists and guard 5 positions. It's just a unique skill set, and also just a high intangible guy. He blows people away in interviews. Everybody from his high school coaches to his teammates just rave about him. He's just like a very likable player, and I think based on who would be left on the board, he's just going to be the answer.
Yeah, and I mean the Thunder are just, you're right, they're like still very much in the early stage of rebuilding, but they have the potential to just put together such weird lineups, especially because of Poku, who like I still just cannot figure out. Like, it's a guard skill set and a 7-footer's body. But in theory, like a Barnes-Poku front court down the road seems pretty intriguing, right?
I'm into it. First of all, it's going to be fun as hell to watch.
Yeah.
and Poku is, another guy, like, we have no idea what he's going to look like in 3 years. He could be like a fluky fun player, or he could be like a star player. But he's he has the more scoring potential, where Barnes is the passer and defender, and the intangible guy. And so I think it's, if Poku hits his stride and becomes the player that OKC thinks he has the potential to be, and so does Barnes, I think it's a match that could work.
What about Sengun at 6? Because I like him at 6. You can laugh all you want, Bryan, but look, I am into this guy. I think there's a lot of potential there. I understand that people are questioning his defense and the slow feet. I get it. But he is just so productive, and there isn't anything that indicates that the shooting won't come around. He's got such a clean stroke from the free throw line. He can pass like nobody's business. I was speaking to a couple pro scouts as well about him. I mean, there were Jokic comparisons, which personally I think those were a little bit optimistic, of course, so I don't agree with those. But I like the fact that scouts are pointing out the passing. It's something that I don't see a whole lot of people talking about so much. I think this guy is flying under the radar. So what am I missing here, boss?
You're just missing, and you're not missing anything. He could very well be a top 5 player from this draft. He's one of those guys who's got, his range of outcomes is pretty wide. I mean, in today's league, like, post players who can't guard the perimeter or stretch the floor are just not as valued, and that's really what it comes down to. It's just like his style, and maybe in a couple of years, suddenly the flashes that we see of ball handling in the open floor and the nifty passing, like, if those become regular occurrences, and like, you know, I've seen him hit the threes, and he's hit step backs, and I mean, he shot 20% from downtown, but if you're buying the flashes eventually becoming regular, then he's got a chance to be one of the best players in this draft. But if he's just mostly a post guy and a roll guy, an offensive rebounder, then I just think his value is not that high. His chance of hitting upside is not that high. But yeah, of course, he's so young, and his production overseas is unprecedented, pretty much, for a guy his age in the Turkish league. And I think he's going to go top 16. I don't think Oklahoma City lets him get past their second pick at 16, the one they got from Boston. No. I'm sure he's going to get looks from Orlando and Sacramento, who could use a center. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a couple scouts who they've asked me, they said, how high do you think he'd go? I said, I think he'd go to Orlando at 8. And they were shocked. They're like, you really think Sengun could go that high? And I said, yeah, it's just really, everyone's opinion is so different, but I could easily see a team saying he's the MVP at 18 years old of the Turkish league. He's just consistently productive. He shot 80% from the free throw line. Over the second half of the season, we saw a lot more passing, a lot more face-up moves. I guess, and you know, if you're betting against him, it's like those moves are a little bit slow. Yeah. You know, some of his fluidity really isn't there. Obviously, defending away from the basket, where his feet get stuck in the ground and he looks heavy-footed. But offensively, some of his moves are just, you know, it takes him a little while to get him off, and then you have to pay attention to who he's blowing by, and some of them are just not like NBA caliber guys. But that's really, I know I'm talking a lot here, but there's just so many outcomes for him that really will come down to all it takes is one team, right? All it takes is one team to be you, Morten, and maybe it'll be Orlando at 5. Like, you know, it's just unpredictable where he's going to go.
Yeah. Well, we brought you on to talk, so I'm glad to hear it.
But really, it takes you a while to get to the point. Yeah.
No, but I appreciate it, because I still think there is a level of American skepticism about international players still. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying generally speaking, it does. I mean, for crying out loud, Lucas still fell to 3 years ago, right? I mean, these things happen. I think if Sengun had put up these numbers in college, I think we would have such a vastly different opinion of him and what he's doing out there. When I watch him play, I understand, I agree with you that his feet are slow, but I also know damn well that when it comes to European prospects, they aren't that accustomed to, getting into the weight room, for example. So I think there could be that body change over the next coming years, like getting into an NBA organization, having him hit the weights a little bit more, slimmed down, get more toned. That should help on his speed. That should help on his athleticism a little bit. I don't know. There's something there where I'm thinking that if he goes 16, like first and foremost, like the OKC would get a steal at that point, in my opinion. But then I could see a lot of teams going in a couple of years. We should have pulled the trigger. We should have gambled.
Yeah, maybe. And I could listen. I could totally see him being like another Sabonis, but I'd personally rather let somebody else take the gamble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mort, you will be happy that West does have him going 16 to the Thunder. So he does still go on the Thunder, just not.
Oh yeah.
With it.
No, but I'm just bringing it up because I think he is deserving of some attention. So I mean I still see people on draft Twitter having outside the first round, which that completely blows my mind. I don't think he's.
No.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I think he's absolutely destined to get picked in the first.
And so listen, unless you have that confidence that he is going to be a star, I just think right in that range, there are guys who are just like, Keon Johnson. People want athletic wings, and Moses Moody is a 3-and-D wing. Like people want them. Josh Giddey is another guy who is going to be right in that conversation. I think a team is going to just be a little bit more intrigued by a 6'10" playmaker than rather gamble. And Franz Wagner, who I think is just like such a perfect fit for today's league. Sengun is just not the fit that everybody desires. And I think they'd just rather take a chance on a wing or a guard than a big guy who's not really a rim protector, a switch defender, or right now a three-point shooter.
He would be interesting, like because they traded Moses Brown to OKC. Like if they get him at 16, he would probably slide in and get minutes right off the bat still. And that could be interesting to see what he could turn into. But I totally hear you. I mean, wings and defensive versatility, that's all the rage nowadays. I think I'm personally leaning towards more offensive players because I think at the end of the day, great offense will always beat great defense. And the more you can just squeeze out great offense, I think that needs to be the priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, the board in that mid to late lotto range also isn't super friendly to Sengun in that, if it holds true and there aren't a ton of trades, because the Magic maybe they gamble, but they already have Carter and Bamba there, and you got to sort that out. The Kings definitely need a center. The Hornets need a center. So 9 and 11 are real options. Pelicans have Steven Adams and Jackson Hayes already.
And the Spurs are at 12, and Lord knows they like their internationals.
Yeah, but they already have Jakob Poeltl. Pacers at 13 have, Sabonis and Turner. They have way too many bigs already. Warriors just spent number 2 on Wiseman. So Wizards even seem pretty happy with Daniel Gafford. So, hey, maybe the Thunder do walk right into a steal at 16 there.